Hello and welcome back to It's Not Just a Tuesday. I am Andrea Walker-Leidy, who gets to host this really fun idea that I had of just chatting with people and recording it. I think everyone has that idea these days, and podcasts are doing such a cool thing to the world. I think it's letting people connect and also have a platform to share. I'm super grateful that Lorrena Black has agreed to spend some time with me today and just share more about your story and some new things that you're doing that are very exciting. But especially for a woman in business, you just have such a cool story and background. And I've been able to watch little bits of it on LinkedIn, and we've been able to collaborate before in your past career hat. And so I'm looking forward to what you can share with us, but also just being able to talk through and let people know that transition in life can happen anytime and follow those passions. So welcome.
Thank you. I love how you said that, follow those passions, because
Right?
that is,
That's what it is. That's what it is. So so I'm not gonna even gonna do any more introduction to you because I was saying before the podcast, I always start talking to people before we hit record, and then I'm like, wait a minute, this is everything I want people to hear. So I want you to just share with us your career journey and how you got here. Let us into a glimpse into your life.
yeah. Well, so I joined the Army when I was 18 years old. I was raised by a single mom and didn't really have a path to college. Like my mom was a certified nurse's assistant, but she didn't go to college traditionally, and so she wasn't really set up to help guide me in that way. So I didn't know what I was going to do. I was really a little lost, and an Army recruiter found me when I was on my sixth job of the year after graduating high school, and he presented me with this idea and this career path or this journey that I couldn't quit. And it scared the heck out of me. And I like to tell people this all the time, but I'd watched the movie Full Metal Jacket. So I was like, I'm not joining the
Right?
military, which in truth had nothing to do with the Army, but that was what my brain associated with. But then
Right.
the more and more I thought about it, the more I was like, I want to do this. It can get me out of, I started to go down this path of following. And
Okay.
I was really nervous I was going to follow somebody off a cliff because I was just making stupid choices. And I just, again, going back to that feeling lost and this idea of doing something that was bigger than myself,
Yeah.
but also that would change my life for me. And so, against everybody's surprise and shock and horror, I joined the Army.
I love that.
Yeah, my mom was like, "Wait, what?" My cousin even was like, "No, Lorena can't join the Army. She's too nice for the Army." It was not anything anybody who knew me ever
Right. Right.
envisioned. But it
That's really
changed.
cool.
Yeah, no, and it changed my life. And I left for what was supposed to be a 4-year tour.
Okay.
And in 2022, I retired after 25 years.
Wow.
So it was I got my college degrees from the military. I got to
Yeah.
see the world from the military. I had both my daughters. It pulled the leader out of me. I've met so many wonderful people, and it was just really great. So in 2018, I left active duty after 21 years and went into the reserves. And there's a whole story there too of why I did that. But
Right.
that was my first time in adulthood. Now I'm stepping into, okay, what do I do now that I'm not
Yeah.
involved
Yeah.
in? And I went to a Hiring Our Heroes hiring fair and got talked into being a financial advisor,
Okay.
which was never really on my radar.
Yeah.
But they intrigued me with this idea that I could serve people and that I
Okay.
could help people, but in that way.
Yeah.
I underestimated the selling component of it a little bit and the amount of time that it would require me to be away from my daughters. And I had already done that for so many years that
Right.
I didn't realize consciously, but subconsciously I did that I wasn't willing to do.
Right. That wasn't
Oh,
your retirement career that you
yeah.
wanted. Yeah.
And so in trying to find clients and build that, I found myself at Inforum, which is where I just recently left, which is an organization geared toward helping women accelerate in their careers. And I had no intentions of working there, but I had started
Yeah.
going to an Inform events to network and do all the things that the model's designed to help us do. And
Mm-hmm.
in that, they had Inform has a women veterans program.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked me to come and be a panel speaker. And then my predecessor was leaving, and they'd asked me to share the job description. And then I didn't for whatever reason. I think I was like, oh, I don't really know anybody. I don't know. But about 2 months later, when I realized financial advising wasn't fit for me, I looked back at the job description. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is everything. Like, I
I
want to
can do
do
this.
this.
Yeah. Oh, that's
And
so
then,
cool.
yeah. And so I went to work at Inform. I started March 2nd of 2020.
Okay.
So my whole journey in the beginning was learning the
I was
job
gonna
as
say virtual world. Yeah.
we were changing everything. But the cool thing is the military had really set me up to take a role at the start of a global pandemic and figure it out on the fly while we were changing everything.
Right.
But the parts of the job that I loved were the parts that weren't really meant to initially be the job, which was the facilitating and the
Okay.
coaching and the
Yeah.
really. And so that's why this year I decided that's what lights me up. That's what I love. But I want to do that for veterans.
Okay.
Like I realized that there are so many awesome programs out there for veterans that are geared toward helping with PTSD or sometimes often military sexual trauma, homelessness, or things like that. And I wanted to do something a little different. I wanted to find I want to find veterans that are thriving in their careers, or they're in their careers but they want to. There's more.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
want to figure out what's my purpose? What do I want to do now? How can I just
That's
unleash
amazing.
it all? And
Yeah.
so that's right. Jumped into entrepreneurship feet first.
Welcome. It's a crazy world. I love that. So you just launched SheServed.
Mhm.
And that's so, I mean, it's so exciting to hear you talk about just your willingness to kind of take those risks along, since you were 18. You said something about, your career in the military prepared you to lead and start things during a pandemic. Talk to me a little bit more about that. Like, what are those things that maybe you didn't know you were prepared for, that experience gave you?
Yeah. So one of the things I do love talking about too is emotional intelligence. And so I was learning emotional intelligence in the military before I knew that's what was happening.
Yeah.
So
Or help me.
adaptability,
Yeah.
emotional self-control, those types of things, but really the resiliency and the adaptability. So when I was on active duty, I was moving, called PCSing, but moving duty stations every 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
Sometimes I might have been at a duty station. My last couple, I was there 6 months and then 9 months. But you move, and so my role toward the end of my career was communications. I was a communications officer,
Okay.
and that means it could be radios, it could be Blue Force trackers, or it could be your IT department.
Okay.
And so it's broad, but you had to get to a new place. You had to meet your new soldiers. You had to meet your new boss. You had to figure out whatever system they were working with,
Yeah.
all while pretending that you knew it all.
Okay.
So,
That is a really good skill. That's all of
yeah,
life right there.
so I really just learned that adaptability piece is huge. And I was a single mom for a big chunk of the time in the military. So I
Okay.
also have these two little girls that I'm trying to,
Wow. Yeah.
get through life at the same time. And so you just learn to just adapt and to move and to be in the flow
Yeah.
of things.
Yeah. Just keep going.
Mhm.
That's so cool. Well, and I think that's so important. I think all of us have that touch of, we learned this thing that we didn't know we were learning, right? Or we did this thing. I just today was sharing something about the fact that when I started the podcast, I was getting ready for the podcast, and I thought, when I started this, I just thought, well, everybody's doing a podcast, and I listened to a couple of courses that are in my business research about the benefits of being able to share your expertise and share other people's expertise and just collaborate, right? And I, being in the media and wanting to help people share their stories through social media and PR, it just seemed like such a good fit. And I thought, wow, I could be that source of storytelling, right? And if 10 people listen, or if a million people listen, I'm another spot where people can share. So why not, right? And one of the things that I've realized is, what this has forced me to do is, as an introvert business owner who loves being behind the scenes, and I love doing other people's PR, and I love sharing their stories. I'm a writer for a reason. I like to write it and give it, or write it and share the words. I don't love to be like in the front, right? And so today, it was a Friday. We had to reschedule this a couple times and be flexible to life from, I think once me, once you, maybe twice me, once you. That's that adaptability to other people's schedules that I don't usually have to do. Being a solopreneur and having a small business where we all kind of work remote. And the other thing that it's forced me to do is just like get ready, right? I need to know that I feel like I look okay if somebody's going to watch this on YouTube and not hear it, right? I need to feel prepared in my home office to present and be in front of people in a way that I'm proud of and in a way that's on brand for me, and all those things that I teach other people. It has forced me to do once, twice, 3 times a week or a month. And that's that emotional intelligence piece that I have I forgot that I wasn't learning before, right? And I love how, you said, you joined the military, you didn't know what that path was going to look like. You started financial planning, you didn't know what that path was going to look like. And I just, today I said, just do the thing, right? Like I don't think we always know actually what it's going to mean, right? Or we might have an idea and we don't actually know what it's going to mean. When you and I met, it was the pandemic. I had really dove into relaunching my business, and it was growing at that time, and I hadn't done very many virtual workshops and things like that, but I love it. And so you were doing virtual events for Inforum and said, "Hey, do you want to do this workshop?" And I had done 2 before. Um, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I do workshops. Sure. Let me come on to your workshop." It's that whole like, yes, I know what I'm doing because I can, right? I've done it at a different scale in a different space, so why can't I? And I think that's so much a part of the empowerment that people just forget that you can do it. If you did it small, you can do it big. If you did it here, you could do it there. Like, I love that you are taking all of that. So talk to me about SheServed and what you're going to be doing, and what, how you're serving veterans, who should be connecting with you. What does that look like?
Yeah. First, I want to say I love how you said just do the thing, right? Because sometimes it is as simple as that. Just
Yeah.
do the thing. Shut out all the voices telling you you can't do it,
Yep.
and just do it. So SheServed is that I'm just doing the thing, and I want to help other veterans and professionals, really anyone, but leadership development. I love creating workshops. I love delivering workshops. It's the same with you. Like, oh, can you do a workshop on? Yes, I can.
Sure.
I can do
Figure
that.
that out.
Because I think that the lived experience that I have, just coupled with the things that I'm so thankful to have learned through Inform over the last 4 years, like I want to share that with other people. I want to help other people. And really that focus on veterans is, like I said, I was looking up data. I didn't say this part, but I was looking up data recently for something I'm doing. And there are roughly 6,000 veterans that commit suicide every year. And I lost a former soldier back in December. And I didn't realize until very recently that she is part of my why, and other soldiers that I've lost before. But I can't help thinking, if she had a purpose, if she had known what her purpose was, well, would she still be here? And so that's in the back of my mind with what I'm doing now, because I want to help people figure out what their purpose is and live into that and lean into that and just do that thing.
Yeah.
And so, sorry.
And I think that, like you said, you don't always know what your why is, right? It's in there somewhere. And I think that's when I always say, I trust my gut. I don't know always what it's doing, right? But if I trust it, I might find the why later. But if I know who I am and how I work, and you're right, I think so many people are struggling, especially veterans, right? And I think purpose is so much, and purpose in who you are, right? You don't have to do anything grand. I can't even imagine the transition. We have some family who are veterans, and the transition from a life where there is so much of a structure and not, the decisions are different and some made for you, right? And then all of a sudden to transition into um, civilian life, I can't imagine that transition, right? And I can I can I can assume, right? I'm stumbling here. I can assume that that mental load that has is probably so overwhelming, and to feel isolated and to feel like people don't understand. And I think that's so much of, I mean, I talk really openly and honestly about mental health and my struggles with mental health, and the fact that I really believe firmly that we can use our superpowers for good or bad, right? And I think everyone has them. And I think that, the reasons that people go into the military are something about them,
Yeah.
whether it's a moment in their life or the type of person they are or whatever. And then when they get out, they're still that person. And I mean, because we all are, right? And so I love that you're trying to just get to people and say, who are you? Why do you want to be here? What do you want to do? Like that's so needed everywhere, but I can imagine so much more in that veteran world where you're right. I don't know that there's anybody doing what you're doing on that professional level or just that self-empowerment level to say, hey, you know, you're a mom now and you're working now and you're not in the military. What is that? What do you want that to look like?
We tie so much of our identity to the military, and that could be sometimes with people, whether you've served 25 years like I did, or some people you make it through basic training and then you get injured and you're hurt, but there's still
Yeah.
you still get so quickly indoctrinated into that culture and what it
Okay.
is. So there are people that struggle with like how it feels, more on the
Yeah.
outside. It sounds like prison when I say it like that. On
No,
the outside.
I think that's so, I mean, it's the unlearning, right?
Hmm.
And the deconstructing of it. I have that conversation a lot with folks. It's very similar if you grew up or were, spent a lot of time in a church or religious environment, right? It that is the way of thinking, there are truths that you hold because of that space. You understand the world through that lens, everything. And I think sometimes you have those moments where you transition and then you're like an infant again, right? You don't know, you have to relearn a
Well,
lot of things.
yeah, and I think even not even just like unlearning, because there's so many great things that we learn in the
Yes.
military, but
Yeah.
it's learning how to take those things and
Oh, so
recognize that
true.
like these actually are really great skills that could really help me be successful in this
Yeah.
new life, new venture,
Yeah.
and getting employers to understand too that you've got a gold mine in veterans. And not every veteran is
Yes.
perfect, like not every person is, but we learn a lot of really valuable things in the military that can be, it's just learning how do I take that, how
Yeah.
do I stop saying I was just this in the military and recognize
Yes.
that you weren't just anything, like did something, you're a big deal.
Yeah.
And how do you use that?
Yeah. Well, and that's the part I think that is probably so important for people to connect with you on, is because when it's just your job or when it's just your task or when that's just where where you're stationed or what you're supposed to do
Mhm.
because that's your task, it's probably not an empowering, you're probably not like, yes, I'm so good at this. You're like, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
Right. And so transitioning out and feeling how amazing you are because you can do these things in so many different settings and all of that. I think that's probably a lot of it. We've we've kind of talked a little bit about this already, but um I would love to just have you share a little bit just in your journey and as you've worked with people and met people, what do you see as are those spots where we are not as confident as we should be? What do you really wish that people were feeling empowered with? And and especially women, because we're women and I love being able to empower women. Men, please also listen to this podcast and feel empowered also. But I have a passion for that, and SheServed obviously also does. Um, what do you wish we understood and felt empowered with?
Yeah. I think that the reminder that one, we can do hard things, like we really can. And you said something earlier about like trusting your gut, like that's that inner wisdom. Like we
Mhm.
have that. That is there to guide us. And we don't often trust it. We second
Yes.
guess ourselves so much,
Yes.
or we
So much.
let the inner critic or the imposter syndrome, we let those things stop us from being our true, like authentic and great selves.
Yeah.
And so it's just figuring it, just trusting yourself, knowing you can do hard things, quieting that voice. And sometimes the voice is there to serve us, right?
For sure.
It's there. Like I have this whole people pleaser thing that drives me crazy
Yeah.
sometimes and that I've been working against, but I recognize that has kept me safe in my life.
Mhm.
That kept me safe when I was a child
It's
dealing
a
with
superpower,
things.
right? Good or
Yes,
bad.
it is.
Yeah.
And it's there. And so I call her little Lorena now, and I tell her,
Love that.
I'm taking the
You
reins.
got this.
We're taking care of ourselves first, and
Yeah.
then we'll serve versus please. So there's this whole, sometimes it is that. I have a coach friend who I think is amazing, and she names her saboteur Agnes. And she will literally say, Agnes, go sit down. Like, we don't
Oh
have
my
time for
gosh,
this
that's
today.
so funny.
So it's just trusting ourselves. Again, you can do hard things, quiet your imposter, and
Yeah.
just do the thing.
Just do the thing. I
I'm going
know.
to steal that
I
today. That's
literally
like my
I
mantra.
made a, in a different world, I make TikToks for fun. And so I was getting ready, to talk to you today, and I had just hit record because I was just thinking about that. I was like, I'm just getting ready on a Friday, and I don't usually do that, right? Sorry, it's not a Tuesday, it's a Friday. I let everyone know that we're recording this. It's not just a Friday on Tuesday when you listen to this. But I think it's important to say that because it's not just Friday either, right? I I don't usually plan meetings on Fridays. It's an office day. It's a day that I try to recap everything, get the work done. But this was so because I had that time slot, I had time to spend with you and to do this. And so after I took my son to school, instead of just diving into work, I took a minute and got ready. And I almost never do that on Friday mornings. And I was sitting there like, wow, this feels good. And this feels different. And this feels like a little breath of fresh air. And it was because I made a decision in 2023 that in 2024, I would do a podcast. Like, I had no idea that that would help my mental health on Friday morning on September 6th or whatever. And so when you hear that, when you hear this on a Tuesday in a little bit, just know that whatever thing that you're doing today, you may not know what that's going to you don't know what it's impacting. You don't know where it's leading you. And I just when I met you, I was reaching out to grow my business and just connecting with people on LinkedIn. And I didn't know that 4 years later, I didn't realize it was, well, 20, I don't know, maybe it was 21 when I did some workshops with Inforum.
Yeah, I think it might have.
But I joined Inforum for the same reason. Wow, I'm really actually going to be a woman in business. I made that decision. Like, I'm not just faking this. That's really, that imposter syndrome is so real for women, especially in the workforce and in building business and being a business owner. And I I didn't know what that path was going to do, but I said, I've got to connect with other women in leadership. I've got to learn and be around folks. And it's why I started the podcast. I want a reason to invite people to share their story, right? Because they're cool and I just want to spend some time with them anyway. So I might as well record it and maybe share something with someone else that helps them feel empowered. So talk to me a little bit. I always ask people about what's on their calendar that they don't think is in important that they might be able to share. And because you've been to a couple of my workshops, you know that I do this. And I have seen, and I have seen on your social media and places that you share, you do this now. And I love it. And it's casual, but I know it's intentional because we've
Mhm.
talked. And I love seeing where you have found these ways to incorporate that personal life of who you are. And it makes, having seen you do that over the last couple of years, it makes perfect sense to me now that you decided to go out on your own, right? And decided that you had this thing to give, because I've been able to watch that on social media, and we forget that social media is such a powerful place to actually share the who of what we do. And so I've seen you do that. I love that. I've gotten to know more about you. My favorite of all time was the day that you talked about your tattoos
Yeah.
on a professional platform. Like, bravo, right? It doesn't matter what it is, right? It's those things that we think we need to hide
Yeah.
about who we are. Um, and that I think is, going back to the mental health piece of it and folks who don't feel purpose. I think it's also the things that we don't think people will understand that we want to hide that really just trap us and hurt us so much. And so I love that you have tested the waters with that, I think it's worked, and here you are. So talk to me a little bit about what's your Tuesday look like? What did your Tuesday look like this week?
Yeah. Well, first, I have to say, I do this every time you ask me the question, but when you gave the workshop that you did, it was that you gave such great like advice and tips, and it really, I made a, like you said, you went into 2020, I think you said 23 or 20, that 24, you're going to do a podcast. For me, 24 was truly like authentically like being Lorraine, like, and so I've been
Love
taking those
that.
small little steps, and even in the places that you wouldn't think, like LinkedIn, but it surprises me how many people say that resonated with them, or that they
Yes.
saw something what I posted, or that they, and so it does let people, because we're people, and there's
Yes.
this human thing that it lets people connect just deeper, and I do love seeing that. But back to the Tuesday question, I had to write it down because I was like, what did I do? So this past Tuesday, I actually had lunch with two of the women. I've been honored to be selected to be a finalist for this Warrior Rising
Yeah, I
veterans
saw that.
thing. Yeah,
Congratulations.
no, it's so exciting. And so I met with two of the women that are also in the Detroit area. One started a business making vegan hair products, which
Oh,
is really
wow.
cool. And another woman has Purple Heart Pastries, where she's taking purple yam and putting it into dessert. So just to get to meet these women I've never met, that are also,
Yeah,
one's a veteran, one's a family member of a veteran, but connecting with them just at a restaurant downtown Detroit, getting to know their stories.
that is cool.
That was a really cool day. So that was
Yeah,
my Tuesday this week.
that is a very cool Tuesday. And that, I love, again, when I talk about, when you share your Tuesday, you're sharing moments that are actually important to your mission and to your life and everything else, right? You look at that and it's lunch and it's on your calendar, but it's celebrating the success of where you are.
Yeah.
It's wanting to connect with other women that you can celebrate. It's learning more about other professionals so that you can grow your network. I mean, that's everything rolled into a lunch, right?
Mm-hmm.
On your calendar. It's everything about what I know is important to you and what where you're at in your life, but also just that mission of yours to connect with women and empower them. And so I think, that's a perfect example of, yeah, it's just a Tuesday, it's just
Mm-hmm.
lunch, but if you break it down, it's who you are. It's your mission. It's your life, right? You're from Michigan, you celebrate Detroit. You are in the city having lunch, and you're connecting with the people who are your neighbors that you didn't even know were your neighbors, right?
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. So before we start wrapping up, I would love for you to just share a little bit about you talked a little bit about SheServed and just the impact there, and but talk to me and other folks listening about um, what you want to do for folks, and
Mm-hmm.
what that looks like and how people can engage with you, or what does that look like? What does SheServed look like in the next 6 months or a year, and who should be reaching out to you?
Yeah.
Besides me, maybe I'll be the first non-veteran client, just because I like hanging out with you and hearing your wisdom of life.
Well, I love that. And I know, like, I called the business She Serve, and it does give the impression that I'm only serving women. But I called it She Serve because that represents me. Like, I am she,
Beautiful.
and I want to serve all, regardless of your gender. Like, I want to help you,
Oh
unlock
my
whatever
gosh,
that
that's
is for
beautiful.
you. So I do, I got to figure out how to incorporate that more, so people know, like, I'm
Yeah.
not just serving women. I want to serve like all my veteran
Yeah,
friends and
you are
battle
hu
buddies.
ooh, I love that. We need, yeah, we need to brainstorm that a little bit
Yes.
because I mean, that is the servant mindset I think that you have. And I think being able to serve people, which also, I mean, of course, that empowers people who have served, but that's gorgeous. Okay, so I interrupted you.
Yeah, that's okay.
I got excited about that one. I didn't realize that at all.
Yeah.
So definitely share more about that with us in the future, because I think that's so important that so we talk a lot about servant leadership in Leadership Now. So the fact that you are calling it that really just means you're taking that big leap into servant leadership.
Well, when I thought about it, I'm like, it represents so many things for me because it represents that I served in the military. I'm a Christian. I serve God, and then I'm really called to serve people.
Yeah,
So it just wrapped it up. But I realized how it to others it might seem like that's my main target.
right.
And of course, I'll always have a passion for gaining
Of
veterans because
course. Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
but my hope is to create and deliver leadership development workshops, offer coaching, one-on-one or group, and really get a chance to have those keynote speaking opportunities, sharing my story, because it's been really cool the times I've done that, where I have had women come up to me and say, "Oh my gosh, your story is my story."
Oh, wow.
Like there's just something so powerful about that. And I
Yeah.
just want to inspire other people. And again, just the gifts that I've been given on to share this.
I love that. Well, I will, all of your information is going to be with the podcast. So if you want to connect with Lorena, if you are a veteran or a man or a woman or anyone who
Or an
or an
organization looking to do
organization that
something for
wants
your
to
veterans.
connect and empower your veterans, or just the individuals in your space that need to learn about that. I love that. I think if just to work those workshops on adaptability alone could be life changing for people and for organizations. So that's amazing. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I can see us doing this again in the future, and maybe circling back and hearing more about the story of who you have served, as you grow the business and do more. And I'm looking forward to seeing you share that story on social media and continuing to connect. Um, as always, this It's Not Just a Tuesday is very real life, and you might be hearing people coming to mow my lawn right now because that is what's happening today. I don't know if that is going to happen or not, but I always like to be incredibly real with people when I'm talking. And we talked at the beginning of the before we got on about the dogs might bark, and I did not expect the lawn to get mowed. So here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are. Well, thank you so much, Lorena. I will look forward to seeing you at events coming up and just sharing with you. Thank you for listening. If you have a story that you want to share, or that you know of someone else that's an amazing story to share, please reach out and let me know. If there's something that you would like to hear on the podcast, or someone's story or expertise that you just need to hear in your life, please let me know. This is It's Not Just a Tuesday. I am Andrea, and I look forward to seeing you on another Tuesday or Friday, but usually Tuesday. Thanks.